Christmas. It's a time for family, friends, drinking eggnog out of a moose-shaped glass, decorating the Christmas tree, and oh yeah, nostalgia. That's the biggest thing, right? At least for us, the toy collectors. I have a feeling that if you're like me, Christmas time is filled with a lot of that nostalgia, bringing back memories of receiving some of our favorite toys or seeing some of those cool toy commercials that just stuck with us for all these years and made us who we are today. Addicted to nostalgia, I mean toy collectors. And you know, one of the things at Christmas time that always made me so excited as a kid, it was receiving a new Christmas catalog so that I could go through and mark down everything that I was hoping to get for Christmas. You know what I'm talking about, right? Those Christmas catalogs from companies like JCPenney, Sears, or Montgomery Ward. They were treasure troves filled with amazing photos of all of the latest toys that we were hoping Santa Claus was going to place under our Christmas trees. This year, I thought it would be really fun to do some retroactive toy hunting by digging through one of those Christmas toy catalogs. You see, as a kid, what I used to do in my family is I would mark my initials next to everything throughout the catalog that I was hoping to get for Christmas. And I just have such fond memories of doing that I really do think that the photos within these toy catalogs is a big part of the nostalgia that sits right alongside commercials and cartoons for all these things that we love. So join me, because today I'm gonna sift through the 1984 Montgomery Ward Christmas catalog and hunt for some cool plastic treasures. Before we move forward, I want to give a huge shout out to an amazing website called Muse Technical, which has spent a lot of time scanning all of these catalogs from over the years and making them available for anybody to look through. So even though I'm going to be looking through the physical catalog here today for this video, Muse Technical still was a handy source, especially for some of the close-up shots, and it's a place where you guys can take a look at these catalogs also if you don't have them in your possession. So I'm gonna link to them down in the description below. Please go give them a look. They're doing a lot of amazing work over there because I really do feel like all of this stuff needs to be properly documented. Now, let's hunt for some retro goodness. So it's worth noting that the cover of the one I'm holding says Christmas Values 1982, but it's actually the 1984 catalog. The one that I picked up is actually missing the first like 16 pages, and it has the wrong cover taped to it. But that's okay. Most of the contents are intact, and in fact, this book dives in right away with some incredibly cool toys. Just look at this. Right out the gate, we are treated to Care Bears merchandise. We've got everything from toy boxes to play furniture, all the way to the action figures, which I gotta be honest, I love these action figures. I had a few of these as a kid. Definitely hits that nostalgia button for me. And clearly the Care Bear Blitz was in full swing. We've got bed sheets, we've got sleeping bags, we've got clothes and gym bags. It's pretty awesome. And this is a great example of the kind of merchandising blitz you're gonna see for so many of these properties from the 1980s. But flipping the page past the Care Bears merchandise and bam, we are thrown straight into Mr. T and the A-Team. I actually just kind of love that contrast. That's amazing. This page is fantastic because it shows off the awesome Galoob toy line of A-Team action figures. Plus we've got vehicles, we've got ride-on bikes, we've got a play tent that looks like the A-Team van, and of course, we've got our talking Mr. T doll.
He's 12 inches high, Mr. T. He's got a real cool haircut and a mean look in his eye.
Oh, here we go. Cabbage Patch Kids. Now, being this is 1984, this is only 1 year after the Cabbage Patch riots. I'm sure you've all heard about that, right? That's when Cabbage Patch Kids were the hottest toy at Christmas time, but were nearly impossible to find in stores, which is one of the earliest experiences of people going absolutely crazy and just being terrible to each other over a toy. Well, here we are in 1984, and Cabbage Patch Kids have now been out for a full year, and they have expanded. I mean, you've got the dolls, sure, but this, of course, goes into your Cabbage Patch Pets, or your Cabbage Patch Kids Grow Your Own Cabbage Patch, or your puzzle forms, or your walkie-talkies and Walkmans and radios, or your hide-and-seek game, or your Cabbage Patch Kids Clubhouse, or your talking phone, or this hideous-looking book bag, or your bed sheets, or your sweatshirts. Ha! That is way too much Cabbage Patch Kids, right? All right, we've set the tone. We've talked about all those things that were dominating at the time, except for something very important, and the real reason that I bought this catalog. Masters of the Universe! Oh man, this is exactly why I love these old toy catalogs. Just looking at the way that they were setting up these displays in order to sell this product, it's art, man. I mean, just look at this amazing display featuring Castle Grayskull and the Road Ripper and Stridor and Roton and this whole selection of action figures. Mwah! It is absolutely beautiful. Like, that right there is exactly what I would be looking at as a kid and demanding for Christmas. There's some really cool stuff on display here as well. Of course, I mentioned Castle Grayskull and all of those figures, but Snake Mountain was also fairly new at this time. So of course it gets its own page and a big push alongside the Dragon Walker. But also look at the really cool merchandising down at the bottom. First of all, that's one of my favorite Masters of the Universe carry cases because it opens up and basically becomes a little display for your figures. We've also got the He-Man talking toothbrush, the He-Man clock, we've got a pinball machine, which, oh my gosh, that's bringing back some sort of nostalgia for me. Like, I don't know if I have this exact pinball machine, but these existed for a lot of properties back then, and I know I had one of these pinball machines. This He-Man one's pretty cool. Oh, and here's something really interesting. While looking at the way that they're listing these action figures, they're all being sold as exclusive 2-packs. You've got the Battle Armor He-Man vs. Cobra Khan 2-piece action figure set, including He-Man, the most powerful man in the universe, and Cobra Khan, evil master of snakes. You get both of them for $9.88. On top of that, you've also got the 2-piece set, including Web Store and Jitsu, and Fisto and Stridor are packed together, while Skeletor and Screech are packed together. Now, this is really cool because when I look back at this, you think back about the ways they sold these figures, there were gift sets, and the gift sets are some of the rarest things from this line. There was nothing different about the figures themselves, but the way they were packaged and sold usually was exclusive to a lot of these catalogs. Montgomery Ward, Sears, JCPenney. Now, boxes did exist for the Fisto and Stridor, and definitely for the Skeletor and Screech, which had their own amazing box art. But some of these little 2-packs, they just came in brown boxes. And they are some of the rarest pieces to collect today. In fact, they're so rare, there's not a lot of photo evidence of them out there because who kept those brown boxes as kids? You just opened up the figures, and since there's nothing distinct about the figures from those packs, you'd never know if that's the way they came now. Looking at this merchandise just makes me so happy. I mean, look at this Castle Grayskull play tent. Of course, you've got the role play sets with the weapons, you got the bedspread, and you've got that sleeping bag, which is one of the things I had as a kid. Of course, you've got that whole wardrobe set over there with sweatshirts and pajamas and a robe. Look at that He-Man robe. Man, what a dapper kid you must have been if you had that. All right, we'll get away from Masters of the Universe for a bit because there's a lot of other cool stuff in here. First of all, Star Wars is still going strong in 1984. We've got the Kenner Return of the Jedi line here on display, again with an amazing display showing the Ewok Village, Jabba the Hutt, the Millennium Falcon, and several action figures. And on the other page, opposite that, some really fun stuff, like the Ewoks Village that is designed for the preschoolers. I love that playset. Down below that, we've even got that R2-D2 toy box, which has become a bit of one of those like rare collectible pieces now. I see that when I'm out toy hunting every now and then. I totally get why that's desirable. And even still, Ewoks plushes, and we've even got an assortment of bed sheets, sleeping bags, and wardrobe for Star Wars. And then there's G.I. Joe. 1984 gives us this really great display showing the G.I. Joe headquarters, along with the Sky Striker flying up above it. And down below, you've even got these really cool Tyco electronic trucking set and train set. That's really cool. On the opposite page, we've got a really cool display of different merchandise, including the G.I. Joe sleeping bag, a G.I. Joe headquarters tent, some ride-on vehicles, and sets of walkie-talkies. Amazing. Oh boy, 1984 is the year of Gremlins. Look at the way they are marketing the Gremlins in this catalog. Now, if you are unaware, the way Gremlins was marketed was actually a bit of a controversy. You see, everything about this movie looked like it was something that was going to be fun for kids. And then kids went to the movies and were treated to scenes of Gremlins getting blended and melting, and you get the idea. So there was this whole merchandising spree that gave us things like bed sheets and backpacks and plushies and amazing action figures from LJN. And then, of course, this ultimately led to the creation of the PG-13 rating in movies. Well, this and Temple of Doom are often noted as the two movies that kind of caused the PG-13 rating to happen, but it's kind of amazing looking at this snapshot in this catalog and just seeing that merchandising spree for Gremlins that turned out to be so controversial.
It's fun to care for Gizmo, imagine he's your pet. It's fun to care for Gizmo and never getting wet. You can make sure to keep him out of the light and never feed him after midnight. Yes or never. It's fun to care for Gizmo, he's a lovable pet.
Flipping through the preschool section in the book is another place that really does bring back a lot of nostalgia. For example, the Fisher-Price Zoo is such a cool playset, and we had one of those in our house. Every time I see that, I always get that nostalgic feeling of just remembering how cool that playset was. It just always felt exciting playing with that, even if I was using action figures with it. Just a cool playset. There's also things in here like the Preschool musical phone that I feel like everybody had, and this Little Tykes picnic table was sitting in my backyard basically for my entire childhood. In fact, I think it was still there when I moved out of my parents' house. That thing got played with for years and years and years. Oh, I love this display of plush. Just look at what we've got in here. We've got Muppet Babies and Sesame Street Babies, Mickey Mouse, Pluto. Oh man, I totally forgot all about Lots of Legs. That caterpillar, so very cool. Man, the toy goodness just keeps coming. It's kind of amazing how this catalog spreads everything out. They don't just group all the action figures together. Because further into the catalog, boom, DC Superpowers. Oh yes. It prominently features the Hall of Justice playset and the Batmobile. And then in a tiny picture way down at the bottom of the page, Manglores. Oh, I bet those caused a lot of problems that Christmas. Oh, see, if you're not familiar with the Manglores, their entire gimmick was that you could tear them apart and then you can just stick them back together and it was like they were brand new again. Except they didn't do that. When you tore them apart, they were tore apart. I bet there were a lot of unhappy kids that Christmas. The opposite page gives us Marvel's Secret Wars with the incredible Doom Tower and the Doom Roller. And then down below that, one of my personal holy grail, something that I would love to own someday, It's the Black Star Ice Castle, including a whole array of Black Star toys down there. And wait, what is this? Trundax. I mean, Black Star's pictured writing in it, but that's not a Black Star toy, is it? It's interesting because it looks a lot like the Doom Roller right up above it with that track wrapped around it. Huh. Destructive battle transporter with all-terrain battle track. Remote controlled, lets you drive forward and reverse. Oh, I see. This is one of those knockoff toys that's just trying to trick parents into thinking they're part of popular toy lines. I see you, Trundax. You know, as kids when we were going through these catalogs looking for things to mark that we wanted for Christmas, there were certainly times where we got a little too optimistic. We got to pages that showed things like the air hockey tables, or even crazier, the metal detectors. These things were always staples in these catalogs, and I certainly always marked them as something that I wanted. Did you guys do the same? Did any of you ever get those items? Oh, nice! Board games. And, hey, Nintendo Game & Watch? So this is pretty cool because this is 1984, so Nintendo isn't quite the name that everybody would eventually come to know it when the Nintendo Entertainment System comes out. But of course, those Game & Watch games are pretty sought after these days. Kind of makes me wonder how under the radar they flew back in 1984. Oh, and speaking of video games, here's what we've got being advertised during this point. ColecoVision and the Atari. Amazing. Oh, slot cars. This is another staple of 1980s Christmas catalogs. I always remember there being slot car sets. The one that I remember wanting the most is this one that's in the book right here. The Tyco Super Cliffhangers with Night Glow. I still remember seeing the commercial for it, thinking it was so cool that they rode up the wall and that they were glow in the dark. Of course that's the one I want. Of course, I didn't get that one. I got a generic slot car set, and honestly, that was probably the right call by my parents. I bet I played with that thing once for 20 minutes and then went back to my action figures.
Into a new dimension, they defy gravity and race upside down. Now, turn out the lights, and Tyco's Night Glow shines like outer space itself. New Super Cliffhangers with Night Glow from Tyco, of course.
Oh, cool. Look at this selection of watches that are in here. There's some really cool licensed ones like the Knight Rider Sport Watch. There's Rainbow Bright watches, Get Along Gang. Oh yes, look at those Masters of the Universe watches. He-Man and Skeletor right there on the faces. I need to rock that Skeletor one like now. I need that. Oh man. And then looking at stuff like these cassette storage, VHS storage, all of this wood-grained furniture. Man, so much nostalgia is packed into these catalogs. I absolutely love it. So much amazing stuff. If you ever get a chance to flip through these, especially around the holidays, I would certainly urge it because it's definitely going to bring back those memories if you grew up during this time, or it's just a really cool snapshot in time. In fact, I think I'm going to peek into the Sears Wishbook 1985 just briefly to see what's in there that stands out. Ah, yes, the Masters of the Universe section for 1985. There's Castle Grayskull and Snake Mountain again, and this year we are marketing the Horde's Fright Zone. So very cool. And there's a lot of other cool things in here as well, like Night Stalker, the Dragon Walker, Bashosaurus, and Trundax. What? Trundax? Wait a minute. I thought you were being marketed as a Black Star vehicle, but now clearly there's a 5.5 figure sitting in there. In fact, is that He-Man? That almost looks like it might be a Speculatron figure. But it's on the He-Man page. Is Trundax a He-Man vehicle and I wasn't aware? Trapjaw, Triclops, Tongue Lasher. Yeah, no Trundax. Turbodactyl, Tuskor. Well, it's not in here. What if I missed it? Is Trundax a long-lost Masters of the Universe vehicle? I need it. It's here. Trundax is here. He's mine with his gun-designed wired controller, his working headlights, his track. To be used for all fantasy action figures like He-Man. Trundax is truly the most powerful vehicle in the universe. We gotta try this thing out. Skeletor, you are no match for He-Man and his mighty Trundax. Prepare your evil warriors for defeat! Boom! Gotcha! You know what else I can do? I can undo this track right here. I can flip it down, and now I can climb right over you! And I can reverse, and I can go forward. And I can reverse, and I can go forward. Reverse, forward, reverse, forward. It truly is the ultimate vehicle for He-Man. He-Man, beware! Your vehicle seems to be causing you to be not so heroic. Shut up, Duncan! You're just mad because you didn't invent the mighty Trundax. Eat my power! No! Yes! Forward, reverse, forward, reverse! Trundax is the most powerful vehicle in the universe!